In Diablo 2, there's plenty of skills that get called overpowered, broken, etc. But one that is the source of probably the most arguments and debates is the teleport skill of the Sorceress. So today we're going to talk about this skill's functions, how you can obtain it on other classes, and even the alternatives and their limitations found on other characters. Starting off, the skill itself, teleport is exactly what it sounds like, a spell that lets you move from point A to point B instantaneously, whether you can actually see what's at the target location or not, just as long as you can click on it and it's not a wall or out of bounds, and honestly sometimes you can even teleport into those walls or out of bounds, but that's only in specific locations. As far as its mechanics, it starts out costing 24 mana and reduces by 1 for each additional level in it, so it gets kinda cheap at the higher levels, but in spite of this, it's still generally best to treat it as a 1-point wonder, since it lacks any synergies and does not gain any functionality other than cost reduction with growth. When you teleport, regardless of level, it will bring any mercenaries or summons you have to your new location, and the way it spawns you all at the same spot can actually protect certain summoner builds from non-piercing ranged attacks, as well as refocusing all summons AIs onto the closest target in a technique called telestomping. The telestomping technique is used for quite a few builds in the game, and not just summoners, the most popular being found on druids, necromancers, and paladins because, well, they can use landing on top of the enemy to their greatest effect. But there are a few uses for things like sorceresses, though they're mostly fringe situations. And while this is a dominant strategy, most people ignore it and focus solely on the functionality of teleport strictly as a movement technique to reach bosses faster in many situations, though the sheer value of it is often overstated outside of characters that are capable of exploiting these telestomps or for classes that lack natural movement techniques. As far as where you can get it for non-sorceresses, the most popular is obviously Enigma, since it is the only off-class skill source for the spell, at least in terms of actual skill levels, though it is far from the only option, with weapons like Spell Steal and Naj's Puzzler having natural charges of the spell, as well as of teleportation suffixes that can be found on orbs, staves, amulets, and circlets, even rare ones, with amulets being especially desirable due to working well with a number of endgame sets. Now, the last important thing to remember with teleport itself, and this is one that most people miss, is that you teleport on the action frame, and then have recovery animations in the new location. So for characters like the Necromancer Vampire form, if you're using a rare amulet for this, or even certain types of Amazon equipment setups, you'll find teleporting feels a lot different than it does on characters with more standard casting animations like the Sorceress, Paladin, or Barbarian. This is because of where the action frames fall in the total casting animation, which can make them faster to teleport once, but longer between chain teleports. With all that said, there are actually a decent number of alternatives to teleport, and there are also effective places to farm for where you don't have to have teleport or even these movement techs. Starting with the alternatives, you have Leap and Leap Attack on the Barbarian, which functions similar to teleport but requires line of sight and cannot go through solid walls, but it can go through some grates. On the Paladin, you have Charge, which lets you just cover ground exceptionally quickly and easily without having to dip into tons of faster run walk, and the Assassin, you have Dragon's Flight, which is somewhere in between the last two, since you can go across gaps similar to Leap, but you need an enemy to target to get there, so it can be a little bit fiddly, though you do have bursts of speed to keep moving fairly quickly even after that. Now, druids, Amazons, and necromancers sadly do not have solid alternatives and will need to keep an eye out for teleport staves, circlets, or amulets, or if they have the resources, grab an Enigma for the teleporting goodness. That said, even if you don't want to use teleport or can't use teleport, there are plenty of other places to farm. The Travancore and Cow levels are two of the most obvious, as are Pindleskin and Worldstone Keep, since they're all quick and straightforward places to farm where teleport really does not add any or much value. Chaos is similar, but getting across the river bridges is helped out a bit by teleport or by other movement techs, since you want to get to the actual sanctuary to get the decent boss density. But beyond these, unless you're farming uniques or sets, which while a valid goal, you're usually better off going for kill volume, not just popping the high value targets, since by killing more enemies, you'll generally get better odds of getting those runes, those item bases, the jewels, charms, etc. than you will simply going around popping each of the uniques in all of the level 85 areas that results in people favoring teleport so much more. And this is especially important for item bases, especially if you want the higher level ones such as Monarch Shields, Phase Blades, Caduceus, etc. So what are some of your favorite builds that do not use Teleport or Enigma? Are any of them in your top 10? Mention it down below, and as always, keep gaming, have fun, and peace out. This has been Alzorath. Bye.